We are live. What's good, everybody? It's your man, Dale Saint. Welcome. I really want to know podcast, man. How y'all feeling? What's good out there? If you're down here in Central Florida, we're just dealing with, thunderstorms. This is something we deal with every day. Like the storms are on the way. I'm rocking. Y'all can see I'm rocking my Elena's hat, man. So if you guys in the Tampa area, man, make sure you pull up. Check out Elena's Cigar Lounge and Hookah Lounge. Here in the town and country area, man. Make sure y'all pull up and check it out, man. Supporting people who need to be supported. You know what I mean? Good people. Shout out to Will Ghosted and his team. Yeah, guys, definitely wanted to come on and just talk a little bit about the AI effect on what's going on in our world, right? We all know that AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's a force. But this technology is going to take away some very good opportunities and some very good incomes and very good careers for just regular folks. And right now it's hitting young people particularly hard. So definitely want to just take a little time, man, to highlight this, because as adults, we're going to have to be able to help the young people through this situation, bro. So let's get into it. And we are live. What's good, y'all? Welcome to the I Really Want to Know podcast, y'all. Man, get some indeed, man. So yeah, man, let's definitely talk about this AI thing, and this is something people have been talking about from the very beginning. Like, who's going to be affected by AI positively and who's going to be affected by AI negatively? And the answer is all of us, both positive and negative. That's always the case with new technology. A lot of people thought that is going to hurt, the working man, the blue collar person and the white collar people. It's just going to make their jobs easier and they're going to make more money. It doesn't look like that's the case. I mean, eventually it's going to affect everyone when trucks can drive themselves, when your car can fix itself and it drives itself. When we get to that point, you already have some AI powered bots that can cut your grass and do all that stuff. I mean, it's just a matter of time before the AI bots are painting your home, putting a new roof on and all that, building homes. We all know that's coming, but that hasn't hit yet. What has hit is the people in white collar fields, and the people who are most vulnerable to this are the kids coming out of college, man. So there are a couple of news reports I think we should check out. The Takeout is one of them with Major Garrett, and then we're gonna watch a piece from Breaking Points, because y'all know that's my favorite joint. Right? I really like Breaking Points with Sagar and Crystal. I definitely support independent media as much as I can. Even when you don't have the cash to send, you can always share and like and and subscribe and all that good stuff, and encourage people to go over there and check out their brand of information. I like them. I mean, the stuff that they're passionate about. It is what it is, but they do a really good job of presenting the story. It's never going to be perfect. We're humans, you know what I mean? So, but I like the way they present it. So, let's check out this CBS News report on what's going on with AI and the takeover for entry-level positions for college kids. Let's check this out. This is going to be interesting. I haven't seen this, so let's go.
Welcome back. Artificial intelligence is one of the top 5 reasons behind job losses this year. That's according to career transition service firm Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. And a new article in the Wall Street Journal that caught my eye details how young, educated Americans are struggling to break into the workforce and are some of the earliest victims of this technological revolution. Its co-author Lindsay Ellis joins me here now. Lindsay, it's great to have you in the Conversation Corner. Yeah. Thanks so much.
And before they get into it, I mean, if we think about it, because over here we do encourage others to think. We encourage ourselves and others to think. Like, man, you got to think stuff through. You got to think stuff through. You just can't jump with your team. You just can't go with the herd. You got to sit back and look at it, right? So we sit back and look at it and we think about it, man. You know, the things that AI is doing right now are the things that you would do if you're just getting with a firm or just getting with a company or a corporation, like the little work. Hey, write this up or go take notes in this meeting or go, you know, I guess if you're going to go get donuts, the AI can't do that yet, but AI can order the donuts. But it like, you know, hey, we need refreshments for this meeting we're having. So we make sure you get that room set up or make sure you have everything. Young kids would do that. So, you know, you got your college, you know, done, you've paid using college loans, but you know, like, hey, I'm going to get me a really good job. You know, I'm going to graduate and then within 2 or 3 months, I'm going to have a job that's going to be paying me 6 figures plus, right? I'm going to go in somewhere and I'm going to be learning the ropes and I'm going to be well on my way to making $200,000-$300,000 within, you know, next 15, 20, 30 years or whatever. So that was a trade-off. And that's, you know, that gives you plenty of money to pay your loans back and take care of yourself and all this. Well, if AI is doing all that stuff that they needed you to do, well, that job becomes way more competitive. Instead of hiring maybe 20 new people, they will only hire, you know, maybe 5. Maybe they're only going to hire 2 because AI has empowered that person to do so much more. So, yeah, I can see companies like, yeah, we don't need these people. And where is the profit these days when you're talking about corporations? The profits in labor. The more these corporations can reduce their labor costs, the more they add to the bottom line. That's what a profit is. No one's making, you know, better widgets anymore. No one's out there, you know, recreating the wheel. No one's providing superior services. What they're doing is streamlining everything and figuring out who they can get rid of. So now you don't need that kid you're going to be paying, you know, 70, 80, 90, $120,000. You can go without them. At least that's my take on it. When I think about it, you put your thinking hat on, you think about it. That's what I'm thinking. Let's see what they say.
I want to tie 2 things together here because there is an artificial intelligence story that is driving stock market gains, higher productivity. It is possibly insulating us from tariffs, at least so far. That's the high side of this story. But you and others at the Wall Street Journal detected a hard job market, a surprisingly hard job market. Let's walk us through.
Yeah, and what's especially fascinating is that some of the industries where productivity has increased the most are seeing the softest demand for new graduates, you know, connecting those 2 issues. You know, demand has fallen, we've found, in a variety of sectors. Yes, tech, but also marketing roles, traditional business back-end roles. Chief executives have told us in each of those cases, or recruiters or investors, that new graduate work can be pretty easily offloaded to artificial intelligence, and that they're making, you know, decisions about whether to hire someone new or replace someone who left, and in many cases are leaning on that technology instead of extending an offer.
I have heard.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense. And you're saving that money. You have a senior person who leaves who was making, you know, $200,000-$300,000, depending on what it was. Maybe have 3 or 4 of them that leaves. And now, you know, you don't have to replace them all. Well, we just get 1 or 2 sharp kids and just, you know, give them, you know, invest in this technology, get AI, and they're going to be able to do the work of 4, 5, 6 people or whatever. And that's moving forward. Not just for the short term, that's for the long term. So what does that mean? There are less jobs out there for these kids coming out of college. That's crazy. And when you look at it too, like, you know, lawyers are going to go away. Paralegals gone. You know, stuff like that. When you, like, even like what I'm doing now, like, I'm out here, I do consulting work now, you know, as a retired guy. I'm a retired air traffic controller, but I have background and experience in the entertainment business, you know, being a comedian and being a promoter and being a producer. I'm a writer. I mean, I rely on AI a lot. You know, I remember when we first started, you know, you come up with a script, you want someone to proofread it, you know, you want someone to, you know, edit, you know, like I'm gonna need an editor, man, to come and, you know, come in and look at this piece of work. Now AI does all that as soon as you type it in. Like, I'm on Substack. I write a story once a month, which reminds me, I got to post my story. I got to publish my story. But I write a short story once a month. And AI is built into Substack, to the platform. So I'm not even worried anymore. I mean, it's it does it automatically, and then you hit a keystroke, and you can change the format. You can, change the flow of it. You can do all sorts of stuff. You had to go to people for that before. So, now, I mean, editors are in trouble, because you don't necessarily need an editor. You can learn how to run the editing software, the AI, to get you the same result. So I can see that. And I can only imagine the impact that AI is having in the corporate world. Like AI is answering the phones. We're to the point now where you call customer service, you're not sure if you're talking to a human or a computer. And this is just the beginning. So those really good jobs, those really great opportunities to grow with a new company or something like that, man, they're going away, and they're going away fast.
That if you are someone in the communication space, marketing, things like that, it's very fraught out there. You had mentioned the article, information, finance, insurance, technical services. And let's just break it down, folks, on the graphic level. Bachelor's degree or higher, 2.7% unemployment rate. Overall unemployment rate, 4.2%. So this is filtering through those who are looking for new jobs.
Yes, and so for young professionals with a bachelor's degree, in that 22 to 27 age range, the Burning Glass Institute really dug into their unemployment rate and found that, the cohort who had a bachelor's, who were in that 20-something group, their unemployment rate had risen the fastest over the last few years, faster than people with associate's degrees, faster than people with just a high school diploma. So it's these, individuals who have college degrees, maybe haven't found a job that requires one. Their unemployment rate is getting worse.
Wow.
And so if you're knocking on this door and it simply does not open, and you're a college graduate, what are your options?
It's a great question. So the young professionals who I'm talking to, the people who hire them, the advice that keeps bubbling up in these conversations is to focus on the types of positions that really value person-to-person connection. One young woman who I talked to a couple months ago, she was laid off from a position, a back-end, HR payroll job. And now in her new role, she's in her new job search, she's looking for a position that she thinks would be less susceptible for automation, something that requires either a strategic bend or kind of face-to-face in-person communication, client-facing roles, to try and be less exposed to the technology.
But even if you find that, and that kind of makes sense, like, well, let me find something that requires a human, basically is what she's saying, face-to-face. But like interviewing, for instance, let's say, well, I'm gonna get into HR, but I'm gonna be the person who handles all the interviews. So that's face-to-face stuff. Well, AI can do that. AI can have an avatar on the screen and it can interact with the candidate. And how do you know that's not AI? And again, you might be able to figure it out within 15, 20 minutes of having this conversation. Like, oh, I think that's AI. Maybe it starts glitching or something, but the next generation won't glitch. We're getting to the point where you're not going to be able to distinguish a human from something AI generated. You guys have seen the AI pictures. Look at what's going on with the OF world. Look at what's going on with these AI girlfriends. That is so right there, like the interaction between technology, like the AI-driven tech, and human is so good that guys are falling in love with these AI girls. This is where we're going. So even having that mindset that, well, I'm gonna find a job where it's more customer facing and I have to deal with the public, that's not gonna save you. That might save you for a couple of years maybe, but it's not gonna save you because that is also gonna be taken over by AI.
There's a numbers game here. There simply aren't that large a volume of those kind of interactive face-to-face jobs as compared to the back-end support ones that are being moved out, if not erased entirely, by artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. And even in the last few years, the Burning Glass Institute was looking at the share of college graduates who wind up in jobs that don't require a degree. So that term is called underemployment. And, that is increasing and very much so since the pandemic, especially. So many college grads are landing in these positions that don't make use of the diploma that they've spent
Right,
a
so
lot
they're
of money on.
overqualified and underemployed, essentially.
Absolutely, yes. And you know, you try and think about the numbers game of how do you land one of these jobs that will earn you enough money to maybe pay back some of that debt or get you on your feet as you start your professional life, and wouldn't be exposed to automation. I think that's a key concern for a lot of young professionals I interview.
Very quickly, if there's any insights you could have for those who are watching, who are about to go into college, or parents with college-age kids who haven't gone across this Rubicon, how should they think about college?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I talk to career coaches at schools, you know, many colleges have a career center, and they basically say, start thinking about what comes after graduation well sooner than you would expect. You know, your freshman year, start thinking about internships, you know, start applying for things, networking well earlier than you expect to make those connections and hopefully land on your feet.
And look out for those industries I just mentioned.
Wow. Wow, guys. That's wow. Right, that's all I got to say about that one. Wow. It's like what they're saying makes sense. Like, what do you tell your kids? I have a 16-year-old daughter. She's talking about college already. And what that author, that lady, did not mention, which she should have mentioned, is you have to reduce your costs. Simple as that. Like, so if you're in my situation where you're a parent, you have, you know, 16, 17, you know, 18-year-old, you're looking at colleges, you're going to have to look at your cost on that. Hey, I love you, son or daughter, but we can't afford for you to go to Notre Dame or USC or Ohio, you know, the Ohio State University. We can't afford that unless you win a scholarship that's going to pay for, let's say, 60%, 70, 80% of your tuition. We can't send you there. So you're going to have to figure out another way to map that out. Say, okay, well, let's look at some other options. Like, I'm here in Tampa. You guys know I'm in Tampa. And I was just kind of looking around. Okay, you know, what are we paying per quarter to go to, you know, South Florida versus University of Tampa, you know, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, bro, these prices are up there. I mean, it ain't cheap. It's nowhere near cheap. So then it's like, okay, well, what other options do we have? And I think as parents, that's what you got to look at it with your kids. All right, let's do this. We can afford for you to go to whatever school, Florida State, University of Miami, you know, Georgia. We can afford for you to go 1 year. So what are we going to do with the other 3 years? So we can afford for you to go there your senior year. So let's figure out what we're going to do for the other 3 years. Maybe you do something like that. You know, okay, we're going to go to this city college for a year. You know, we're going to pay attention to what credits transfer. We're going to be real strategic about this because you don't have the money to waste. Like, what the goal is, let's get the fundamentals out of the way, the basics done, and then get you into that big school for your final year so you can say, I did graduate from, you know, you name the school. I did graduate from Colorado, or I did graduate from, you know, Florida. I did graduate from University of Cincinnati. Like, whatever school the kid wanted, their dream school, we do your senior year there. Then you graduate from there. And maybe we can save 75% of the cost. But we're going to do the other 3 years at these other institutions. Maybe you do that. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Luckily, my daughter isn't just locked in on a school, and you got to look at what you're going to study. Like, what are you going to study? Now, I mean, you got people coming out of STEM. You know, they're coming out and they have education in STEM and they can't find work. Why? Because AI is taking over that too. So I definitely want to show you guys this. This is from Breaking Points, and it kind of goes into what I'm talking about. And it drills down on what these young people are facing right now and the downstream effects. Like, this thing affects, I mean, the whole point of going to college. You want to send your kids to college so they can get that degree, and we all know that you're going to make more money over a lifetime if you have a college degree versus someone who doesn't. That was always the play. But now we're going into this instant reversal where it doesn't really matter. You can have this college degree, but you're probably not gonna make as much money. Or I guess a better way to put it is with the college degree and you find a position, you're gonna make more money. But the trick is now you gotta find something. You gotta find something that, and the whole time you're trying to avoid losing your position to AI. Man, this is crazy. We got Brother Mandrell in the building, man. What's good, fam? AI is crazy. You can do what Mandrell did, join United States Army, 18 X-ray and become a Green Beret. AI hasn't taken over that yet. It's gonna be a while before we have special forces bots, but it's coming. They ain't there yet, but I mean, this is a serious thing. Like, we're looking at a major shift, and again, the downstream effects of this, man, it's going to change our society forever. Now you're no longer guaranteed that success simply because you went to college. And again, you went and studied something real. Like you can code, you can program, you can do all this stuff, but those are the jobs that AI is taking over first. So here you are, you got all this education, but you're working at Target. You got all this education, but you're working at Chick-fil-A, maybe managing, right? And you have all this debt on top of that. And it's like here in Tampa, here in Central Florida, bro, if someone is making $16 an hour, like that's considered like, oh, that's pretty cool. $16. Anything $20 and above here in Central Florida, people go crazy over. Like, man, I'm making $20. I'm making $25. Wow. In today's economy, bro, like you can't afford to live on that. Like not even here in Central Florida. Like, pre-pandemic, yeah, but today, no. And as far as buying a home, I mean, the median home prices kind of went up again. It's up to $423,000. That's the median home price in America. Who's going to buy a house at $423,000 when they're making between $16 and $25 an hour? They're not even, think about that. You're not even over 50 grand. So the median income is coming down, and it's coming down with kids who have college degrees. Man, it's crazy. And parents, y'all need to really be paying attention to this. Pay attention to this. Don't let this sneak up on you. Because you're going to have to start talking to your kids about this and maybe slightly reprogramming them. Give them the play. This is what we're going to do. We're going to start at the city college. We're going to make sure we're going to work with a college or we're going to work with a group of colleges where it transfers. All of the credits transfer. So we don't have to go and take extra classes for that final senior year. I know they did this in Cincinnati. Like you can go to Cincinnati State and everything was like credit for credit to transfer. It was a program that would lead to you being at the University of Cincinnati. I'm pretty sure all of the big universities have these pipelines set up, and I think more people are going to have to do that because your goal is to reduce the cost of that college education. You can't come out of college as a youngster, 21, 22, 23 years old, wherever you are, with 60, 70, 80, six figures plus of college debt. You can't do that because now you're done. It's going to be really difficult to clear all that up. And if you're coming out as a doctor, if you're coming out as a lawyer, as an engineer, that's what you're going to be looking at. So let's check this out with Breaking Points. This is Sagar, man. He's good people, man. I love the way he breaks this stuff down. If you haven't heard his take on Epstein and Trump and all that, you need to, especially Epstein, you need to check it out. He does a very deep dive. He's been following the Epstein thing for years, and it's definitely worth taking a listen to and or reading because he's published. So let's check this out.
We're going to turn now to youth unemployment, underemployment. Let's go and put this up there on the screen. Very closely watched numbers, relying on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, so let's hope that they're right. But even according to the revisions, you can see here this chart. Quote, is a generational jobs crisis brewing? The underemployment rate for young adults in America is up sharply. So if you look after 2010, after the Great Recession, this is the story of like that lost generation, which really got screwed. Underemployment was up some 30%. 8% at one point in 2010, basically all stayed high all the way to 2015 when the jobs market started becoming a little bit better. It started to trend down very nicely back to 2000 levels until the COVID pandemic of 2020, massive spike after that, actually even surpassing 2010. It came back down during the whole like tight labor market era of 2021, but you're watching how very quickly, just in the last couple of years, it's ticked up. And now it's actually back to levels around 2009 before that massive explosion in 2010. And something very closely to watch. You got to ask, like, why? What exactly is happening? And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Number one is AI. This is at the high levels of the job market. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Number two is
it's at the low levels of entry.
Well, yeah, it's funny. It's both at the low and high. More what I meant is it's impacting college graduates for entry level work.
Right.
So, but those are already people. They spent a lot of money on their education. They were probably going to be higher earners. But there's a big question, too, at the lower levels as to why that's not happening for the non-college graduate, people who are in trades or in others. Remember, in 2021, they had a major explosion. But problem we've seen right now is with the unemployment figures and others, we're seeing like a softening of underemployment for a lot of those people as well. And so when you combine it together, you kind of have potentially another lost generation post-COVID, where just like in 2010, the elder millennials in particular, those who graduated in '09, I mean, they were just destroyed. There's no even talk, like it's difficult to describe what it was like for a lot of those people. We're not there yet, but there are very troubling signs. And I think it goes to the shakiness of the overall labor market, especially for young people.
Well, yeah, no, and I think that's a good point. And it also speaks to how much longer. So to some extent, if we look at the uncertainty that Trump says is strategically meant to show the United States has leverage, at a certain point, the uncertainty, the weight of the uncertainty on the economy starts to become, even by his own explanation. So if we're taking him at face value and saying, and I agree with that, I do think the uncertainty creates some leverage to a point.
No, for sure.
But then the weight on the economy becomes so significant that it has effects, like on unemployment for people who are coming out of college, that you have to look at it and say, even by what your argument is here, that you're bringing jobs back, at a certain point, when does the bleeding stop?
I mean, these are very good points that these two are making. You know, I'm just sitting here listening to them, and it's like, you know, your kid goes to college, they come home, right? They leave at 18. They come back at 22, they have a degree. Let's say they have a degree in business marketing or finance or something like that. All right, cool. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they'll just go out to whatever big company is in your city. Like back in Cincinnati, you just go to Fifth Third, or you go to Provident, or you go to, what was it? You go to Procter & Gamble, right? Maybe you go to GE, and you'll be able to put that finance, or that business degree to work. Most of these places probably were recruiting you back when you were in high school. And if you did your due diligence while in college, you probably, set it up where you were doing some interning, you've networked your way into a position. Great. You got a job, man, you're off and running. But now they just don't have those positions. Like, AI does all that now. So we don't have the position. So it's extremely competitive. Like how many, you got to be willing to move. Your resume is going to have to be so amazing, or you're going to have to be related to someone who's very important, who can pull a string and get you in there. And then when you get in there, the pressure to keep the job is going to have to be insane, right? So the lucky few gets in, and then you have the kids who don't get in. Where are they going to go? Right? They're going to go work for minimum wage. Work like in Florida, minimum wage is $13. It's about to go up next month to $14. It's $14 an hour, right? Even though they say you're full time, you're not working 40 hours a week. You're working less than 40 hours. You can't afford anything. So what does that mean? You're living with mom and dad, and you have this debt out here, or you go back to school. You take another loan, you go back to school so you can defer that debt. Like, okay, I'm back in school, I'm gonna go get my master's, and I'm just gonna increase that debt with the thinking, well, I'll be able to get a job by the time I finish this master's program, and then I'll just pay all this debt off. You see it becomes a very slippery slope. It becomes a very tricky thing, right? And the big thing is like, man, I gotta do something about this debt. Or he's like, well, I'll go work for the government. Well, the government is doging like crazy. So there are not a lot of jobs that aren't under threat. within government. You know, the United States government is the biggest employer in America, and they have been cutting jobs like crazy since the new administration came in. Yeah, everyone can't be an air traffic controller. That's the one place where I know they're not cutting. That's the one place where I know they need people. But even that'll change up. If the ATC world is like, they go from getting barely any qualified applicants to getting flooded with these college kids coming out, sharp kids who are just, you know, taking a test just so they can make a little money, maybe get a shot at this, that changes the game. Now, the FAA become very picky, and they'll make it tough, as you should. It used to be very, very difficult to be an air traffic controller. I know that they've lowered some standards, and we've seen the result of that. So those standards go back up. That's a good thing, but still, it's extremely competitive, and you're probably not going to get that either, because you're competing with not just the college kids, but you're competing with the military kids, and you're competing with the kids who grew up in aviation, so they kind of know what's going on. So, man, this is some crazy stuff going on, and this is, you know, again, technology changes the world. We're going to have to adapt. And parents, you guys are going to have to talk to your kids ASAP. Let's continue.
Certain point, what is you letting the blood just seep into the economy not worth what you're talking about anymore?
And
At what point is a net cost by your argument?
Totally. And this was actually really driven home at the technological level, and especially with the general like breaking of the American dream by this story. It's an amazing story. It's been gone viral for a number of reasons. Let's put B2 up here on the screen. And the headline here is, quote, goodbye $165,000 tech jobs.
Wow.
Student coders seek work at Chipotle.
Wow.
Quote, as companies like Amazon and Microsoft lay off workers and embrace AI coding tools, computer science graduates say they are struggling to land tech jobs. I would add H-1B into this, by the way, because we talked previously, we did a segment here on the show about how Microsoft fired a bunch of workers and then applied for a bunch of H-1B visas. But the point is basically this pursuit of cheap labor, AI, and then also just a general softening of the overall market means that people like this woman who they profile here in the story are really getting screwed. So, you know, they lead off by basically talking about how this woman, Mansai Mishra, she is 21 years old. She grew up in California, graduated from Purdue with a degree in computer science, basically did everything right, you know, but quote, after a year of job hunting for tech jobs and internships, she graduated in May without any job offer. The only company that even called me for an interview, she said, was Chipotle. Since the early 2010s, you know, they've talked about kind of the booms of how it was so awesome in 2014, 2015 to go work at Google and Facebook with all this free stuff and healthcares, et cetera. But a lot of these AI programming tools basically have eliminated all of the original scut work that people like this were put into the pipeline for. And I'm not denigrating it, because scut work is important. I did a lot of scut work after I graduated. That's what you do, because you do it so that you're around, you do these basic menial tasks while you learn bigger skills and you get promoted up into the company. But at the beginning, they're like, well, we have everybody who has all the higher level skills already. We don't need to put any more people into the pipeline or pay them. We can just use our AI tools to basically eliminate 10 to 15%, you know, of our payroll. And that's basically what's happening. They even point actually to a survey more recently. State schools, Maryland, Texas, Washington, these are decent colleges, as well as private universities, Cornell and Stanford. Many tech graduates, computer science graduates, said that they had applied to hundreds and in several cases, thousands of tech jobs at companies, nonprofits, and at government agencies. All of them were given coding assignments, many of these other things. Even with these month-long jobs quests, the vast majority of them, they either ended up ghosted, they didn't end up being hired. I actually did warn about this a few months ago after Liberation Day in April, because I had heard for a lot of those people who were graduating in May, that people were pulling their offers. This is like, sorry, we can't do it. The stock market is down. We can't make any major commitments. Now the summer is coming to an end. People are about to start going back to school in the next month or two. And if you think like that's devastating, you know, for people who graduated, they even say here that one individual who graduated in 2023 had applied for 5,762 tech jobs. Diligence resulted in 13 job interviews and no full-time offers. I mean,
man, did y'all hear that? Could you imagine going out there with your college degree, with your honors, and putting in the work? You go out and you apply to 5,000 different opportunities with different companies. You get 13, did he say 13 offers? And none of that led to a job? Man, that's just as bad as the dating apps. I mean, that's where we at right now, bro. It's just as bad as the dating apps. I mean, shout out to the young kid who did that. I mean, they're being aggressive with it. Man, things have changed. It used to be, I'm old enough to remember when you can go to the big company in your town and get hired in the mailroom, right? They used to have a mailroom before that got outsourced, right? You just get hired, you're down in the mailroom, sort mail, and then your job will be to take it up to the different floors, to drop the mail off and to pick up mail and, you know, sort the stuff so it could go out and all that. But you work for that company, right? So you work for this big corporation. You're entry level, you're at the bottom, you're at the end, you're at the bottom, but they would give you opportunities like, hey man, you know, you can go to night school. We'll pay for it. If you go to college, if you get accepted, you know, there's opportunities to get promoted within the company, and then you would grow. You had buy-in. So you would come from the mailroom, and then 30 years later, you could be the CEO of that company. But that's gone now, isn't it? That's not even how people get down. Like this guy's going around 5,000. He went around and applied to 5,000 different companies. Well, maybe not 5,000 companies, but he applied for 5,000 jobs, 5,000 positions, and couldn't get a single job, couldn't get no full-time employment. Maybe they wanted to hire him as a contractor. Maybe they wanted to do something like part-time. And, you know, think about that, man. You're coming out with all kind of college debt. This is a problem. This is the problem. What's America going to do? America's going to turn to their politicians looking for an answer. And this is not going to be an answer there. So, hey, mom and dad, y'all better figure it out at home because you're not going to get any help from your elected officials. I'm here to tell you, I don't care what side they're on, blue, red, don't matter. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, doesn't matter. You ain't going to get any help from them.
That is devastating. Later on, quote, he applied for a job at McDonald's to help cover expenses, was rejected for his lack of experience, has moved back to Shorewood, Oregon, and is now receiving unemployment benefits from previous. I mean, that's terrible,
even
right?
get hired by
This
McDonald's.
is exactly the story from 2009. I remember reading about it, of people who did everything right. There's even a lot of stories about the law school class of 2009.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, they had it
Grad school
made.
and law school.
They went in expecting to make $175,000 or whatever in 2008 money. They were going to be balling. Like when they graduated, they had offers at the big banks or the major corporate law firms. By the time they were out, they were like, "You're done. You have nothing." A lot of people had to move home. Some of them, it ended up working out okay, but it just created like mass chaos and of course debt, you know, for a lot of these people. So look, the point I think in all of this is that it's at both levels of the economy, but if it starts getting so dicey at the higher level of labor, that is, again, these are people saddled statistically with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. No promise to pay it off. And then you wonder why Zoran is happening or any of these other, you know, political effects of what youth unemployment look like in our economy. I just thought it was a really sad story when you look at it broadly.
Yeah, it is. And I think those parallels are really important to point out. So I have this other headline. I should have added it to the rundown, but this is from last month. This is in Fortune. The headline here is Gen Z men with college degrees now have the same unemployment rate as non-grads. A sign that the higher education payoff is dead. Well, we've had plenty of those signs over the years, but this is, I mean, that's not just a sign. That's your example that the higher education payoff is dead. It's not just a sign that it's going to happen. It's clearly the indication that it has happened. And so
when you look at that, right? When you look at that college, the higher education payoff is dead, and it's strange that this particular part of the story is about men, like just men. So, you know, you still got to check those boxes. So people are still looking for women and minorities and stuff like that. So you're talking about men. All right, cool. That sucks. But if the payoff is dead, why are people still breaking their backs trying to get into these big schools? Like, this is what I mean. You're going to have to change that up, bro. I understand graduating from a prestigious school, but just do the 1 year. Just do the 1 year. That 1 year might cost you over $20,000. You just never know, depending on what type of school we're talking about. And you got to get accepted and all that. But you want to graduate from a big school if you can. But do all that work, you know, you're going to have to reduce your costs because there's no guarantee you're going to get these positions anymore. Like what Sagar was talking about attorneys. And back in the day, man, like, you know, you're doing your second and third year of law school, you're doing summer associate work. So you're you're in your law school, whatever. Now you've been hired basically to be a summer associate at some big firm somewhere in America, and they pay you really well. I knew some people who were going through this back in the 90s, and they were getting paid. Back in the 90s, we're talking like 1994, 1995, the money they were making was staggering. They only made it for, the summer months. But, I mean, bro, they were making like $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month. Back in that money, that's a ton of bread. And normally what would happen is they were like, all right, they'll give you an offer contingent upon you passing the bar. You pass the bar exam, you're hired. You're working for them. Like, you're already working for them. They got you studying for the bar, just like that movie Tom Cruise did. You studying to make sure you get a high score on the bar and all that. Bro, if that's gone, then there's no incentive at all to go to college, to law school, especially a prestigious law school. Like, because you're going to wind up with the people that I knew that went through law school, they had a whole lot of debt. Again, this was back in the mid-90s, and they were carrying, six-figure plus debt. It was, some of them who came from wealthier families, that was taken care of. Their mom and dad was able to just go to the bank of mom and dad, and they made the investment, no problem. You know what I mean? Here's $200,000, good luck at your Ivy League school, whatever it costs for them to live there and pay for school and all that. But for the average working person, the person from the hood, they had to take a whole bunch of debt out, man. So they're looking at $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in debt. Again, this was back in 1990s money. And they're still paying off that debt. Like, the people that came up with me, that I went to the military, but they went to college, they're still paying off their debt. Think about that, bro. They graduated college in the early 90s. Here it is, 2025, they're still paying back their college debt. So now that same situation is popping off, and you can't even get hired. Like, dude couldn't get hired by McDonald's because he didn't have experience. What kind of experience you need to drop fries? Maybe he was applying for a management job at McDonald's and didn't want to drop fries. And that's something you have to tell your kids. You're going to have to humble yourself and go out here and just, work one of these little menial jobs and then wait for an opportunity. You got a degree, just wait for an opportunity and then apply. They know you. You've been working hard. You've proven yourself to be dedicated. But the problem is there's just no buy-in anymore, bro. People aren't buying into these corporations. Corporations aren't buying into the people. It's all about, just get on, take care of yourself, make some money, figure out a way to cut costs. And, just kind of, you have your knives out and you're climbing up that ladder, but you're sticking your knives in the backs of all the people who are on that ladder with you as you continue to climb up to the top. Mind you, there's someone coming up with their knives out and they're going to stick it in your back as they climb over you. So it's dog eat dog, man. Let's continue.
Then have this massive debt hangover. We saw it with millennials after the Great Recession that lasts into your 30s and 40s. Student loan debt, you're not able to pay it off because you're not making the money that you thought you would make when you took out the loans. And those jobs just don't exist. And so millennials, it looked like there was a trend of Gen Z getting married, potentially buying houses earlier after the pandemic. And actually what we could end up seeing from this is something similar to millennials, where they were getting married later than they said they wanted to, having children later than they said they wanted to. And all of this is just to say, we aren't only looking at costs on the economy. We're also looking at people's lives and happiness. And it's not just numbers on a page or on the screen. There are all kinds of cultural effects that come on with this that people remember vividly from the recession. And so if that's what we're looking at, and there's some really troubling signs, we kind of have already run the play.
I think it's really devastating. The AI part of it, it has been overstated about mass job loss, but the layoffs are here, and we knew part of that was going to happen. Let's put B4, for example, on the screen. So this is about AI-driven layoffs, shrinking the job market, specifically for recent graduates. So what they say, as I have said here, these entry-level roles are being hardest hit. Companies are automating tasks traditionally handled by the most junior staff. And at the same time, the broader job market is slowing, rising employment with recent graduates and with young tech workers. And
bro, are the people clapping as these folks are have been walked out the building with their stuff? Are the people in the background clapping? Is that what they do when they lay you off? Hey, thank you. Hey, don't do that. Just look down when I walk past your cubicle or something and count your blessings. It ain't you. That's terrible. They're sitting there clapping as you just lost your job. Boo, 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 you guys. Ugh, that's nasty. Ugh, boo, boo, corporate America. Ugh, terrible. Let's get going.
Even if you look at some of the Federal Reserve data, so there was some more recently data, I think it was from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. And what they showed in the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta was a similar kind of softening of the overall job market. I'm trying to look specifically at the unemployment rate, but what they showed was that this software engineering and computer science degree in particular saw major changes just over the last couple of years. And it just makes it, again, where I've seen, for examples, I'm trying to think about, I talked about somebody who I know who works in consulting. And they were like, well, when I came into consulting, he's like 10 years into his career now, but he's like, my initial job was just note taking and arranging minutes and all these other things. It sucks, but it's like, that's how you start your climb up the ladder. He's like, we don't even need somebody to do that anymore. We just have Microsoft Teams, which has the, OpenAI, ChatGPT, AI function or whatever built into it. It automates everything. It does summaries. And so we're just not giving offers, to nearly the same number of people. Well, that sucks, for a lot of people. Similarly, especially when they, quote, did everything right. And then they just get smacked, initially by this mass social change. And I can definitely think at the white collar level is where we're going to see the most impact in law, in consulting, in technology. But don't make a mistake to say that it's not coming for blue collar workers as well. Like if you're a tradesman with a house skill, that's going to be one thing, but everyone talks about that. McDonald's kiosks, more automation, all of those things. It just reduces the overall headcount that a lot of people need, or it just means that the type of job you're going to get is not necessarily the one that is going to pay very much in the future or give you any upward mobility or advancement.
Well, and
I mean, think about that, bro. Like he's right. You go into McDonald's, you got these kiosks where you forced to use the kiosk, or you can go to the, the drive-up window at McDonald's, or you name the fast food joint. But you look at Walmart, you look at Target, they have the self-checkout. I know a lot of places, CVS, Walgreens, there was a big push to force people to use them. Now, like there's talk that the corporations are going to pull them out because there's too much merchandise walking out the store. There's people like me who refuse to use them. I have a shopping cart full of stuff, and if you tell me I got to use self-checkout, I'll just leave. I'll leave the cart right there. I'm not doing it. So there's that push, but his point is well taken. Like Saiga was talking about his buddies, like, yeah, back in the day, I had to come in, just like I said before, you're doing the newbie work. You're going there taking notes, you're sitting there, but you're also gathering experience. So even if you got hired on, or let's say you're working as an intern, you're doing this stuff, you're still getting experience. So when you go to apply somewhere, that's on your resume. Well, yeah, I've interned for, 8 months here, a year and a half there, at this firm, at that firm, under these people. I have letters of recommendation, I have letters of reference, and that's great. That's going to help you get something. Like that guy who couldn't get hired at McDonald's, he didn't have any experience. But if he got an opportunity to intern these places, he would have experience. Like, well, I do have experience. It shows that I was in charge of these teams and I was doing this and blah, blah, blah. Okay, you can lead people. Okay, you got experience. All right, you're hired for the assistant manager job. So all that's going away. All that's going away, man. And this is like you said, is affecting white collar first, but it's gonna affect. It's affecting. I always get my collars mixed up. White collar and blue collar. Blue collar is like for regular people. It's gonna hit blue collar as well. We talked about that too. It's gonna hit blue collar workers. I mean, it's just a matter of time. I mean, if you're a mechanic, a plumber, a pipe fitter, a bricklayer, a roofer, you're good for now. But it is a matter of time before AI is doing all that stuff. It's just the people in the office are gonna get hit first because the stuff they're doing is all computer based, and it's easier for AI to learn what they're doing and then do it better than a human.
Trade shops also support admin roles that are going to be hit by AI as well. So I mean, that's significant, and it underscores to me the incredible urgency of having our pipeline from high school to college or to the job market is probably a better way to put it. Adapt, and I don't know, sorry. I mean, it's like we're still, it seems like we're still on autopilot and still doing the same thing over and over again. When, when you look at the consulting example, do I think it's probably better that a lot of people aren't going to be at McKinsey?
Yeah, that's the funny thing.
I do.
But it's real easy for me to say, sitting here, right?
Of course.
It's not so easy to say to somebody who graduated with an expectation of actually getting a job.
And where else do they go?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Where else are they going to go?
Because what just happened is the bottom rung, and this is slightly different than the recession, the bottom rung of the ladder was kicked out, and you have no way to get to the middle rung, let alone to the top rung. So what do you do? I mean, seriously, what do you do?
And Emily has some great points there. Shout out to Emily, man. But what do? You try to do it on your own. You're going to have that. You're going to have the kids who are just like stuck. They're going to go home, bury their heads in the sand, go live in mom's basement, dad's basement, or whatever. But then you're going to have those kids who are like, well, let's come together and let's try to open our own firm. Let's try to do our own thing. Now, man, that's just so incredibly hard. Like being an entrepreneur is so incredibly hard. Like this thing, you guys know I'm a comedian. I'm a former air traffic controller, retired air traffic controller. I can get into the consulting world in ATC, especially now with all the stuff that's going on with air traffic. I can get into that world easily. I know people they have firms, they have these, these contract gigs are out here. I can get into that. I can be, if I wanted to go to Oklahoma right now, I could go to Oklahoma and be part of the training apparatus to train up the new generation of air traffic controllers if I want to do that. I don't want to do that, right? But I have the experience. They can't be denied. I have the experience, so I can do that. I could probably go to Embry-Riddle and, be part of their cadre down there and just, as an experienced air traffic controller, I could be the guy that they just sit there and talk to. Like, what's it really like? That's worth money, right? I could do that. I just don't want to mess with aviation right now because, worse is yet to come, guys. I don't want to be there when the bad stuff really happens. And then maybe on the other side, maybe I'll get into it. But I want to get into consulting and I want to do entertainment consulting and the stuff that I'm doing now, YouTube, social media. And also I want to do some things like work with some bigger corporations to kind of help them get an idea of what it's like in the trenches, so to speak, and just like, hey, work with us. We'll send our people in. They'll go through the whole process, get hired, look at all the orientation stuff, go through the paperwork, and then we can report back to the people who hired us and let them know exactly what's going on, let them know what morale looks like in the trenches there, whatever. But that's a lot easier said than done. Why would some multi-billion-dollar corporation come to someone like me to do something like that when I have no experience really in that world? Let's say it would be a rental car business. Why would Enterprise come to me to hire our people to come in and give them an assessment of how their business is going when I've never worked in that industry really? Right? So it takes some doing. Now, as a retired guy, yeah, I can do that. I can have some fun. I can figure it out. Like you want to know about stand-up or you want to know about promotions, you want to know about events, you want to know about, I can do all that stuff. Writing, I have writers. We can help you with your ideas. You're trying to write a script. If you're trying to do a project, we can help with that. And, I have enough experience to where it makes sense for someone to invest some money, but it won't be Sony Studios. It won't be the big boys. It'll just be somebody who has some money and they want to, get some fresh eyes on a problem. I said all that to say this. These kids coming out of college, they don't have that experience. They're kids. They don't know nothing. So even if they do come together and try to do their own thing, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to be successful. So they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And what Emily was saying makes a lot of sense. It's like, what do? You spend all that money and the rest of America hasn't adjusted. Parents are still, I'm sending my kid to school. I'm sending my kid to the University of Alabama. I'm sending my kid to LSU. I'm sending my kid to Stanford. And I'm going to pay all this money. And it's like, bro, they're going to get out of that program and not be able to get hired. They're coming back home and they're going to come home with that debt. Or you just invested all this money in your kid and they're just sitting there looking at you, right? Downstairs playing video games. They can't get jobs and you can't get mad at them. You need to be applying like, Mom, I applied, or Dad, I applied to 5,000 positions. Look, check my work. I only got 13 letters of interest and none of that led to a job. So what do? You gotta get ahead of it, guys. Mom and Dad, get ahead of it. And it's so hard for Americans to do that because Americans are dealing with the current situation. Mom and Dad might get laid off. They might be forced to retire early. They have to deal with what's going on today. they're looking at the house like, man, my house is losing value, or, you know, like the interest rates are too high, and, you know, we can't afford this, we can't afford that. You know, bro, it's crazy right now. So of course they don't have time to sit down and watch this. Right. So, but you got to, guys, you have to force yourself to stay on top of these things.
We're right now, it seems like, just continuing on the autopilot default of sending people through this normal college to white collar job pipeline, that it's changed so much that it's the rote reflex is outdated.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment.
And I did like that video, man. Shout out to Breaking Points, man. They do a great job over there. They do a great job over there. If you guys if you haven't subscribed, man, check them out. Check out their stories, man. Like I said, you can tell what they like and what they don't like. Crystal, bro, she's on that Palestinian Gaza thing big time, man. She is not happy with what's going on over there. If you want to see her take a senator, like a U.S. senator, and put him on a hot seat and grill him, if you want to see that, that's on Breaking Points. I mean, I doubt if another politician will come on that show now, because they're going to be too afraid. You have to, you know, like someone like Bernie or someone who's really entrenched and established to go on there. But the average run-of-the-mill elected official going on Breaking Points, if they do that, they win my respect, because Crystal and Saga will dig into you. They don't care. Crystal, of course, is more liberal. Saga, of course, is more conservative. But they come together and they present a really good product. So definitely check them out if you get a chance, man. Check out Breaking Points. Go over there, like, share, subscribe, watch their stories, share that stuff with people, and think about it. Like this story right here was a great story. This is a huge problem for America. I think this is going to come up in the midterms. It's definitely going to come up in the next major election cycle, which will be 2028. It's going to come up in 2028. People are going to be looking for help and looking for resources and looking for answers to this. Like, I've spent all this money on college, and, you know, just like Biden was talking about, removing all the college debt. We're going to forgive all the college debt. That's going to come back. That is going to come up, is what I mean. People going to want that. Liberals are probably going to try to use that to get back into the White House. Will they follow up on it? Don't know. And then you look at what's going on with college-educated men. Like, they can't get, there's nothing out there for them. So the conservatives are going to continue to court the men and say, hey, come with us. We're going to get you some jobs. We're going to get you this. We're going to get you that. It's going to be interesting. This midterm and then the 2028 election is going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it. I just wanted to throw that in there for today. We got Scam Likely in the building. What's good, fam? Good to see you. I just wanted to throw that in there, guys, just to, get people thinking. This is going to be crazy. I'll be back tonight. I'm doing a podcast this evening. I'm doing my Homeboys podcast. It's called The Playbook. So when I get back from that, I'll probably jump on and do a late one. I think depends on how late I go. But if I can get back in time tonight and I'm not too tired, I'll jump on. I want to talk about, I want to continue the conversation with Fresh and Fit and Anton Daniels. Like, Anton did another after hours. He did another early. I watched his early interview. Just, they were talking politics. They were talking politics, really. And you got a chance to see how the Fresh and Fit platform and Anton's politics kind of align. Definitely going to be worth talking about. And again, I think they had maybe one or two viral moments on the after hours. They had some girls on there, and Anton was just doing what he does, man. He went in. So we're definitely going to talk about that. If we don't do it tonight, we'll definitely do it tomorrow. You guys really like those videos, so I'm going to keep putting them out there, and it's worth watching. I mean, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot there, to kind of take in, but yeah, man. So hopefully I'll see you guys later on tonight. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow. If you have kids, right, and they're not out of high school yet, or you have kids in college now, you might want to sit down and talk to them about what's going on. You might want to withdraw if you don't have the money. You're gonna have to figure out a way to reduce the cost to get that degree. And the most important part of all that is, hey, do you have a job lined up? What is your plan? Is there something there that makes sense? Because 4 years at one of these big universities and you come out and you can't get a job at McDonald's, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a huge problem. And, definitely going to have to network. If your kids aren't networkers, good at it, you're going to have to get on them and show them how to do it. And parents, if you guys are bad at networking, then you're going to have to holler at somebody and figure it out. You can holler at someone like me. But networking is extremely critical now because these positions are not plentiful anymore. So they're only going to go with the best candidates, and they're going to go with those people they have a relationship with. So it's very critical you get out here and you network. Go rub some elbows with these folks. Go to a barbecue or two and know something. And hopefully they'll be able to help you out, because all you need is the opportunity. If you have everything else, you just need the opportunity to get in there and shine and negotiate for the position, bro. And it might mean going in there if like, hey, if they're about to tell you that you're not we really like you, but we only have this one position and we're going to go this route with this person. They're talking to you, say, hey, I'll consider a pay cut. I just really want to get in here. I'll consider, let's do a pay structure to where I begin to add value to the company. You guys can go ahead and give me these pay bumps or something like that. Say, I'll start for less, but, have it in your contract and write up a contract. Say, I want it in here, but we got these benchmarks. If I hit these benchmarks, then I get this pay restored. So basically I'll start for less, but I want a path to get restored to this, to offer, what you're paying these other people. You got to get creative. Maybe you got to do that. Maybe it's all about negotiation. I don't know, but this is the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about. I got a 16-year-old who's looking at college, and we're about to get real serious about it. Like, okay, what are you going to study? What college you talking about going to? We're going to run the numbers with her. She can see the numbers. Like, this is what we need. This is what I need you to do. If you want to go to this school, you're going to have to win this scholarship. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to come up with this part of it. You can do that through academics. You can do that through whatever you got to go through. Figure it out. We can find other ways to get this money, but make sure your kid's involved so they understand what's going on. And the last thing you need is your kid goes off to college and they're not even getting a grade. They're getting D's and C minuses and stuff like that. Like, nah, bro, can't be doing that. If you going to do that, you definitely going to the city college round. You're going to go to DeBry or whatever. Go online college it. So talk to your kids. This ain't no joke. The game has definitely changed. It has definitely changed, man. So talk to your kids, figure this out. And whatever you guys come up with, if it works, let us know. Come on here and tell us. Like, leave it in the comments. This is what I did. This is what we're doing with our kids. This is how much we spent. But the biggest thing, reduce those costs, man. Figure out how to get that college degree for the least amount of money possible. So that's it. That's all I got, man. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I'll be back tonight, hopefully. If not, definitely tomorrow. And we're gonna, we're gonna get into what we talk about. Definitely gonna get back to that red pill stuff. Y'all love it when we talk about red pill stuff. We're gonna jump on that. And we're definitely gonna review that conversation that Anton and Fresh and Fit Myron and Fresh had politically. It was some good stuff there. I definitely want to talk about it. So be looking for the thumbnail. All right, I'll see y'all soon. I'm DL Saint. This is That Really Want to Know podcast. Man, I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.
Nothing like I've ever seen. It's just a thing of beauty.
Darn, that's the end.